Deep in the heart of Quebec, Canada, lies a treasure trove of liquid gold, maple syrup. This region, renowned for its breathtaking autumn foliage, transforms into a vibrant tapestry of reds, oranges, and yellows each fall. The maple trees, with their broad leaves and sturdy trunks, are not just a visual delight, but also the source of one of nature's sweetest gifts. Towering maple trees stand sentinel, their branches reaching towards the sky like ancient protectors of a sweet and sticky secret. These trees, some of which have stood for centuries, have witnessed countless seasons and generations of syrup producers. Their leaves, fluttering gently in the breeze, seem to whisper tales of old traditions and timeless practices. Every spring, as the snow melts and the sap begins to flow, the forests come alive with the rhythmic tapping of buckets and the sweet aroma of maple syrup production. The process begins with the careful selection of trees, followed by the drilling of small holes to collect the sap. This sap, clear and slightly sweet, is then boiled down to produce the rich amber syrup that is loved worldwide. Generations of families have passed down the tradition of tapping these trees, their livelihoods intertwined with the ebb and flow of the maple sap. From grandparents to grandchildren, the knowledge and skills required to produce high-quality syrup are shared and cherished. It's a labour of love, with each family member playing a crucial role in the process. Little did they know, a storm was brewing, a storm that would shake the very foundations of their industry and leave a bitter taste in their mouths. The skies, once clear and blue, began to darken with ominous clouds, signalling trouble on the horizon. The farmers, who had always relied on the predictability of nature, now faced an uncertain future. The air, usually thick with the smell of maple syrup, held a different kind of tension this year. The usual hustle and bustle of production was overshadowed by an uneasy silence. Workers exchanged worried glances, their minds racing with questions and concerns. What was causing this disruption, and how would it impact their beloved syrup? Whispers of strange occurrences travelled through the tight-knit communities. Stories of missing syrup barrels and unusual activity at night began to circulate. Neighbours gathered in small groups, sharing their fears and suspicions. The sense of community, usually a source of strength, now seemed fragile and vulnerable. Truck drivers spoke of unusual activity near the storage facilities, shadowy figures lurking in the night. These sightings, though fleeting, added to the growing sense of unease. What were these figures after? And why were they targeting the syrup storage areas? The mystery deepened with each passing day. The whispers turned to murmurs, then to uneasy conversations. Something wasn't right. The community, once united by their shared love of syrup production, now found themselves divided by fear and suspicion. Meetings were held, strategies discussed, but answers remained elusive. The tension was palpable, and the stakes were higher than ever. The lifeblood of their economy, the sweet nectar that sustained their families and fueled their pride, was about to become the target of an audacious crime. The syrup, once a symbol of their hard work and dedication, now represented a potential loss that could devastate their livelihoods. As the community braced for what was to come, they knew that their resilience and unity would be tested like never before. The news hit the small towns and villages like a bolt from the blue. The quiet, serene communities were suddenly thrust into the spotlight, grappling with the enormity of the situation. $18 million worth of maple syrup gone. The sheer scale of the theft was mind-boggling, leaving everyone in shock and disbelief. The audacity of it was staggering. People gathered in small groups, discussing the heist in hushed tones, trying to make sense of how such a massive operation could have been pulled off. This wasn't just a petty theft, this was a meticulously planned operation, executed with precision and cunning. The thieves had clearly done their homework, understanding the ins and outs of the syrup reserve. It was a heist of epic proportions, reminiscent of scenes from a Hollywood blockbuster. The scale and sophistication of the operation left everyone in awe. The target was the Federation of Quebec Maple Syrup Producers. Stockpiles of syrup housed in a seemingly impenetrable warehouse in St. Louis de Bamford. This warehouse was supposed to be a fortress, a secure facility designed to protect one of Canada's most valuable commodities, yet somehow the thieves had managed to breach its defenses. Panic spread through the maple syrup industry. Producers and distributors were on edge, fearing the impact this theft would have on their businesses and livelihoods. Prices soared as buyers scrambled to secure their supply of the precious commodity. The market was in turmoil, with everyone trying to figure out how to cope with the sudden shortage. Accusations flew as suspicion fell on everyone from disgruntled employees to rival syrup producers. The atmosphere was tense, with trust eroding rapidly among industry players. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police launched a full-scale investigation, determined to bring the perpetrators to justice. They knew they were dealing with a highly organized and resourceful group. Detectives worked around the clock, piecing together clues and following leads. The pressure was on to solve the case and recover the stolen syrup. The world watched in disbelief, captivated by the sheer audacity of the crime. News outlets from around the globe covered the story, turning it into an international sensation. How could anyone steal so much maple syrup? The logistics of such a heist were mind-boggling, leaving investigators puzzled and the public fascinated. And more importantly, where on earth could they hide it? The search for the missing syrup became a race against time, with everyone eager to uncover the truth behind this audacious crime. As the investigation unfolded, the RCMP uncovered a cunning and audacious plan. The thieves hadn't simply broken in and loaded up trucks with barrels of syrup. Instead, they had employed a far more subtle and devious method. They had replaced the syrup with water. The operation must have taken weeks, if not months, of planning and execution. The thieves, working under the cover of darkness, had systematically siphoned off the syrup from hundreds of barrels, replacing it with water to conceal their crime. They had then transported the stolen syrup, likely in smaller containers, to avoid detection. The sheer scale of the operation was mind-boggling. It was a logistical masterpiece, a testament to the meticulous planning and brazen execution of the criminals. The RCMP, working tirelessly, began to unravel the threads of the conspiracy. What started as a routine investigation into missing barrels of maple syrup quickly escalated into something far more sinister. The officers, initially skeptical, soon found themselves piecing together a puzzle that spanned across provinces and even international borders. Their investigation led them deep into the underbelly of the maple syrup world, a world far removed from the idyllic image of quaint sugar shacks and family-run businesses. Instead, they uncovered a labyrinth of secret warehouses, hidden production facilities, and a network of shady characters who operated in the shadows. The deeper they dug, the more they realized that this was no ordinary theft. They discovered a shadowy organization known as the Maple Mafia, a ruthless syndicate that controlled a vast network of syrup production and distribution. This group was not just involved in the theft of syrup, but had a stranglehold on the entire industry. They manipulated prices, threatened competitors, and used violence to maintain their dominance. The Maple Mafia's reach was extensive, and their methods were brutal. This wasn't just a case of petty theft. It was organized crime on a grand scale. The RCMP's raids uncovered millions of dollars worth of stolen syrup hidden in plain sight. The scale of the operation was staggering, and the implications were far-reaching. This was a criminal enterprise that had been operating with impunity for years, right under the noses of law enforcement. The Maple Mafia, it turned out, had been operating for years, using intimidation and violence to control the flow of maple syrup and inflate prices. They had a network of enforcers who ensured that no one dared to cross them. Those who tried to operate outside the syndicate's control were met with threats, sabotage, and even physical harm. The level of fear and control they exerted was reminiscent of traditional organized crime families. They had infiltrated every level of the industry, from small-time producers to large-scale distributors. No one was safe from their reach. The Maple Mafia's influence extended to legitimate businesses, corrupting officials, and even international markets. Their sophisticated operation involved not just theft, but also money laundering and smuggling, making it a complex web of criminal activity. The heist, it seemed, was just the tip of the iceberg. As the RCMP delved deeper, they realized that the stolen syrup was only a small part of a much larger scheme. The Maple Mafia had plans that went beyond mere theft. They aimed to monopolize the entire maple syrup industry. The investigation was far from over, and the RCMP knew that bringing down this syndicate would require all their resources and determination.